A good speaker has to have a clear voice and uses words that are understandable. A good speaker also uses the right facial expressions and appropriate gestures. Moreover, speakers are like when they talk directly to the audience, maintaining eye contact with the listeners. These speakers also move on stage with confidence, showing mastery of public communication. I can't wait to share with you the principles of speech delivery. Good afternoon, students. This is a wonderful day of learning. My name is Teacher Kara, bringing you another fresh topic you will surely love. How's your day so far? I am sure you're getting used to this new normal setup. You are now finishing up the modules and getting ready for a second semester, aren't you? I am here to help you out. I welcome you back again to our oral communication class. Have you invited your classmates to watch for today's episode? Don't forget to call, text, or chat them so that we can all learn together. I got you a very interesting topic that you will surely love. But before we discuss it, I need to make sure that you still remember the outlining. You can pull out your notebook and let's recall it together.
Outlines, or textual arrangements of all the various elements of a speech, are a very common way of organizing a speech before it is delivered. It is important to the speech writing process since doing so forces the speakers to think about the main points and sub-points, the examples they wish to include, and the ways in which these elements correspond to one another.
In short, the outline functions both as an organizational tool and as a reference for delivering a speech. Can you still name the two types of outline? These are the preparation outline and the speaking outline. Now, what differs them from one to another?
The first outline is the preparation outline, also called a working, practice, or rough outline that is used to work through the various components of your speech in an inventive format, while a speaking outline is the outline you will prepare for use when delivering the speech.
I hope you do not forget the three main parts of an outline. Let's enumerate them. The three main parts of an outline are introduction, body, and the conclusion. There are many techniques to actually writing your speech. You may write the body of the speech first, filling in the content of the speech later with supporting ideas. Then, write the introduction and conclusion after. Or, you may write the conclusion first. You can also write the introduction first to guide the speech in the direction one wants to go. Then, fill in the body and write the conclusion. Remember, students, an outline is simply your guide. Think of your outline as a skeleton. It will serve as the backbone of your speech. However, it is your job to flesh out and enrich it. Before we start, what I am about to do first is to test your prior knowledge of the topic based on your responses. Kindly write all your answers in your notebook. Can we start? Let's begin.
The following parts are articulators, except A. Lips, B. Eyes, C. Tongue, D. Teeth. Articulateness in pronouncing the words and speaking with clear diction can effectively transmit the blank of the speaker. A. Message, B. Articulation, C. Facial expression, D. Body movement. What is the correct answer? How are speech sounds made? A. Sounds are made by multimedia and other digital sources. B. Sounds are made by a combination of facial expression, gestures, and body movement. C. Sounds are made by a combination of the movement of the articulators and vibration of vocal cords. In what aspect of articulation that deals with how the speech sound is made? A. Place, B. Voicing, C. Delivery, D. Manner. Why is articulation important? A. Because we have to accurately produce speech sounds in order to effectively communicate. B. Because well-articulated speakers sound smart. And C. Because it is compulsory when delivering a speech.
Save all your answers because we are going to check those later. Think of a speaker that you have heard or seen. State your reasons for liking the speaker. Is it because of his or her confidence or appearance? Probably because of the mastery of language. All these answers are correct. A good speaker has to have clear voice and uses words that are understandable. A good speaker also uses the right facial expressions and appropriate gestures. Moreover, speakers are liked when they talk directly to the audience, maintaining eye contact to the listeners. These speakers also move on the stage with confidence, showing mastery of public communication. Today, ladies and gentlemen, you are about to learn the principles of effective speech delivery. By the end of this episode, you shall be able to
identify articulation as a principle of speech delivery, find a speech online and examine the speaker's articulation, and realize the importance of articulation in delivering one's speech.
The question is, how does one deliver a speech effectively?
Good morning to all of you, and thank you for the invitation to speak to you. I am very glad to be back here in Davao del Norte. More than 110 million cases of COVID-19 now been reported to WHO from around the world. And more than 2.5 million people have lost their lives. But we do see signs of hope. Globally, the number of reported cases has now declined for 6 consecutive weeks, and the number of deaths has declined for 3 weeks in a row. This trend is a reminder that even though we are discussing vaccine today, COVID-19 can be suppressed and controlled with proven public health measures.
From the video, does the speaker articulate well in his speech? Was it understandable? Let us watch another video, shall we?
Good morning to all of you, and thank you for the invitation to speak to you. I'm very glad to be back here in Davao del Norte. More than 110 million cases of COVID-19 have now been reported to WHO from around the world, and more than 2.5 million people have lost their lives. But we do see signs of hope. Globally, the number of reported cases has now declined for 6 consecutive weeks, and the number of deaths has declined for 3 weeks in a row. This trend is a reminder that even though we are discussing vaccines today, COVID-19 can be suppressed and controlled with proven public health measures.
From the second video, does the speaker articulate well in her speech? Is it understandable? From the two videos, which from the speakers do you like better? Speaker number 1 or speaker number 2? I can agree with you on that. The better speaker among the two is the speaker number 2. But why? It is not enough to carefully prepare a speech. Its message has to be imparted by the speaker to the listeners. This is the second half of speech communication, the delivery of the speech. There are several principles to be followed. The first principle is articulation. When the speaker's words cannot be understood because of poor articulation, the speech might as well not have been delivered at all.
Word choice and grammatical correctness are necessary in writing the speech, but articulateness in pronouncing the words and speaking with clear diction can effectively transmit the message of the speaker. It is highly important to know that correct way of saying a word, whether they are familiar or unfamiliar. Proper breathing techniques, together with the correct molding of sounds that make up words, contribute to efficient articulation.
The second principle is modulation. There are pleasant sounding voices, quite soothing to the ears, just as there are unpleasant voices that sound flat or high-pitched or screeching. People like yourselves like to listen to voices that are well modulated, meaning the capability to adjust or manipulate the resonance and timbre of the vocal tone. If the speaker's voice is modulated, listeners will pay attention. The speaker's words will be heard clearly and the message of the speech will be sent and received. The third principle is stage presence.
Stage presence is the ability of the speaker to own the stage and being able to fill the space and project his or her personality to the audience.
The opposite of stage presence is stage fright, which is considered by many as the topmost fear in the world of public speaking. No one is immune from stage fright, right? Other people just manage it better and create what we see as stage presence. From the video number 2 a while ago, does the speaker show stage presence? The fourth principle is facial expressions, gestures, and movement. It is not just the choice of words and their proper pronunciation that make for an effective speech delivery.
The message of any speech is reinforced, clarified, and complemented by nonverbal communication such as facial expressions, gestures, and movement.
Without these nonverbal elements, the speaker may be judged as boring with flat delivery and with unemotional tone.
Facial expressions should change with the content of the speech. Gestures should emphasize only certain points. Movement should allow the speaker to carry the speech around or forward to the audience.
From the second video a while ago, does the speaker use nonverbal communication? If yes, is it too much or too little? The fifth principle is audience rapport. It has been mentioned several times previously that the most important aid in establishing a connection with the audience or listeners is an audience analysis, right? Using this data, one is able to write a speech that would appeal to the listeners. Also, because of the same data, one will know how to deliver the message to the audience and connect with them at a deeper level. Now that you are familiar with the principles of speech delivery, let us focus more on the articulation. Let us remember that articulation refers to the clarity of the sounds and the words we produce. If someone is articulate, he or she speaks words clearly. Oftentimes, many people are unaware that they regularly have errors in articulation. Recording yourself speak and doing some self-monitoring are effective ways to improve your articulation. Laziness, on the other hand, requires a little more motivation to address. Some people just get in the habit of not articulating their words well. I'm sure we all know someone who mumbles when they speak or slurs their words together. When combined with a low volume, poor articulation becomes an even greater problem. Doing vocal warm-ups like tongue twisters can help prime your mouth, lips, and tongue to articulate words more clearly. When you notice that you have trouble articulating a particular word, you can either choose a different word to include in your speech, or you can repeat it a few times in a row in the days leading up to your speech to get too used to saying it. To project a good articulation, one must fully open the mouth in order to distinctly enunciate the different words. The more you care about your topic, the greater your motivation to present it well. We are still obligated to do our best out of respect for the audience and their needs. That's why we enunciate clearly enough to be understood by everyone. Let's discuss a very interesting topic related to pronunciation. Are you excellent in pronouncing words? Pronunciation refers to the way in which we make the sound of words. To pronounce words, we push air from our lungs up through our throat and vocal cords, through our mouth, past our tongue, and out between our teeth and lips.
Pronunciation is important for two reasons. First, mispronouncing a word your audience is familiar with will harm your credibility as a speaker, especially when the correct pronunciation of a word is commonly known. In such a case, it would not be unwarranted for the audience to question the speaker's expertise on the subject. Second, mispronouncing a word they are unfamiliar with can confuse and even misinform them.
If there is any possibility at all that you don't know the correct pronunciation of a word, find out. Many online dictionaries which provide free sound files illustrating the pronunciation of words, or you can just ask some experts such as your parents or teachers to learn the correct pronunciation of any English word you are unsure of. This mispronunciation creates a situation of great awkwardness or anxiety for the audience. I think the most basic question for this lesson is, how are speech sounds made? Sounds are made by a combination of the movement of articulators, the lips, the teeth, the tongue, and the soft palate, including the vibration or lack of vibration of the vocal cords. For example, b and are said to be made at the lips because you have the upper and lower lip together in order to make the sound. I have with me basic articulators inside our mouth. There are three aspects of articulation used to categorize all of the sounds made. One is place. Place is where the articulation takes place. For example, the tongue touches the alveolar ridge to produce the t, d, and m. Can you do it? Repeat after me. T, d, d, m. Our second aspect of articulation is manner. The manner is how the speech sound is made. An example is a sudden release of air to produce versus a steady stream of air to produce s. Let's do it together. Sudden release, s. Steady stream of air. Number 3, voicing. Voicing is whether or not your vocal cords vibrate when you make a sound. When we were young, we have some trouble saying words the right way. That's part of the learning process. Our speech skills develop over time. One person masters certain sounds and words at each age. Just in case you are one of the many people with a stutter or other speech challenges, you undoubtedly already know that there are numerous techniques for reducing stuttering and improving articulation. Some people have difficulty articulating because of
physiological problems that can be treated by trained speech therapists, but other people have articulation problems because they come from a cultural milieu where a dialect other than standard language is the norm. Substitutions occur when a speaker replaces one consonant or vowel with another consonant, such as water becomes wood, ask becomes ax, mouth becomes mouth. Omissions occur when a speaker drops a consonant or vowel within a word. For example, internet becomes inet. Mesmerize becomes memorize. Probably becomes probably. Distortions occur when a speaker articulates a word with nasal or slurring sounds. For example, pencil sounds like mensil. Precipitation sounds like personation. Second sounds like second. Additions occur when a speaker adds consonants or vowels to words that are not there. For example, anyway becomes anyways. Athletic becomes athletic. Black becomes bullock. Interpret becomes interpretate.
If you have speech difficulties from any of this, start correcting it by notice and find sounds that are making wrong. Or listen to excellent speakers on how they are making sounds. And practice saying certain words and how they are being sound.
Good morning to all of you, and thank you for the invitation to speak to you. I'm very glad to be back here in Davao del Norte. More than 110 million cases of COVID-19 have now been reported to WHO from around the world, and more than 2.5 million people have lost their lives. But we do see signs of hope. Globally, the number of reported cases has now declined for 6 consecutive weeks, and the number of deaths has declined for 3 weeks in a row. This trend is a reminder that even though we are discussing vaccines today, COVID-19 can be suppressed and controlled with proven public health measures.
Is this familiar to you? Another aspect of pronunciation in public speaking is avoiding the use of verbal surrogates or fillers, used as placeholders for actual words like Do you have one of those? You might be able to get away with saying as many as 2 or 3 times in your speech before it becomes distracting. Before we end this lesson, let us ask ourselves as speakers for many years, why is articulation important? Articulation is important because we have to accurately produce speech sounds in order to effectively communicate and be understood by others. This time, let us assess ourselves on everything we have learned today. Kindly get your notebook and let's check your answers together. First question is, the following parts are articulators except A. Lips, B. Eyes, C. Tongue, and D. Teeth. Which do you think is the correct answer? Check your notebook. Excellent! The correct answer is eyes, letter B. Let's go to the next item. Articulateness in pronouncing the words and speaking with clear diction can effectively transmit the blank of the speaker. What is it? A. Message. B. Articulation. C. Facial expression. Or D. Body movement. What is the correct answer? Very good. The correct answer is A. Message. Articulateness in pronouncing the words and speaking with clear diction can effectively transmit the message of the speaker. Let's move on to the next question. How are speech sounds made? A. Sounds are made by multimedia and other digital sources. B. Sounds are made by a combination of facial expression, gestures, and body movement. C. Sounds are made by a combination of the movement of the articulators and vibration of vocal cords. For this question, what is the correct answer? You got it right. The answer is letter C. Sounds are made by a combination of the movement of the articulators and vibration of vocal cords. Our fourth question is, what aspect of articulation that deals with how the speech sound is made? A. Place. B. Voicing. C. Delivery. Or D. Manner. And the correct answer is, you are correct. Letter D. Manner deals with how the speech sound is made. Finally, our last question is, why is articulation important? A. Because we have to accurately produce speech sounds in order to effectively communicate. B. Because well-articulated speakers sound smart. C. Because it is compulsory when delivering a speech. Let's reveal the correct answer. You are right again. The correct answer is letter A. Articulation is important because we have to accurately produce speech sounds in order to effectively communicate and be understood by the audience. For your task, I want you to find a speech online and examine the speaker's overall articulation. Here are some guide questions for you.
How good is the speaker's delivery in terms of pronunciation? Is he or she being understood? Why do you say so? List words you think are misarticulated. In what areas might the speaker improve?
You did an amazing job today. Give yourselves a round of applause. Remember, students, that there is no foolproof recipe for good articulation. Each of us is unique, and we are embodied with different systems that enable human communication. It takes a lot of practice over the years before we completely articulate speech appropriately. Even when we know our messages are strong, but if we do not articulate it well, it is difficult to know for sure that our presentation will also be good. Always remember that speeches don't always come with subtitles. An audience doesn't have a pause button. They cannot rewind or play back a speech for clarity. That is why it's so important to articulate every word as clearly as possible. Your voice is the channel for your message. Today is a worthwhile in oral communication. Catch me again next Wednesday for another round of learning. Don't forget to call and invite your classmates to watch PTV 48 on their televisions or via Facebook Live every day from 1 to 3 in the afternoon. This is again your teacher, Mom Kara, reminding you to stay home, stay safe, and always pray to God in the highest. Bye!